Good evening. I call to order the September 16th meeting of the Winston-Salem City Council and ask the City Secretary to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Larson.
Present.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Bessie.
Here.
Councilmember Scipio.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Burke. Here. Councilmember Adams.
Here.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Present.
Thank you very much. Would you please join the City Council and me in a moment of silence? Thank you. And would you please join the City Council and me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our Sergeant at Arms tonight is Lieutenant Vince Rega. Lieutenant, thank you for being with us tonight. May we have item H1, please?
Item H1, proclamation declaring September Think Orange Month in the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Whereas 1 in 7 Forsyth County residents, including 1 in every 5 children, face food insecurity, and federal nutrition programs play a pivotal role in reducing childhood hunger and fostering children's development. And whereas the city of Winston-Salem received a grant from the National League of Cities through funding from the Walmart Foundation to develop the Think Orange campaign to increase participation in federal nutrition programs through community outreach, partnership, and collaboration. And whereas over the past year, the Think Orange campaign has partnered with Second Harvest Food Bank, Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools, Ezekiel AME Zion Church, the Winston-Salem Urban League, Hope of Winston-Salem, and Cobblestone Farmers Market, and other stakeholders in its commitment to making sure no child, adult, or senior goes hungry year-round. And whereas Winston-Salem has leveraged these partnerships to create an after-school hot meals program, a fresh produce distribution program, expansion of summer feeding, a SNAP street team to expand SNAP enrollment, and SNAP FNS matching programs in the fight against hunger in our community. And whereas in April 2019, the city launched the Think Orange Corporate Investment Fund to sustain the Think Orange campaign at the conclusion of the grant. And whereas September has been declared National Hunger Action Month. And whereas the Think Orange campaign partnered with Hanes Brands, Lowe's Foods, and Winston-Salem for South County Schools to raise awareness of the Think Orange campaign by producing, selling, and wearing orange socks and encouraging the public to buy and wear orange socks during September. Now, therefore, I, J. Allen Joines, Mayor of the City of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim September National Hunger Action Month to be Think Orange Month in Winston-Salem to bring attention to the reality of food insecurity and promote ways individuals can get involved in the movement to end hunger in Winston-Salem.
Thank you. And I'm wearing my orange pin tonight, but I've asked Councilmember Adams to present this. This was really her project. She got started with a grant back some time ago, and I've been happy to support her in that effort. But I was going to present it to Regina Hall, is here, who's the coordinator, and her colleague as well, if you introduce her coming up. But we're delighted that we're making good progress in this very important issue.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And what I'd like, Mayor and members of the council, what I'd like for Regina and Tiffany to do is to give a small briefing on what we've done, how we got here, and the success of this program. Again, thank you all so much for the hard work.
Thank you, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Burke, members of the council. Tiffany Turner and I are elated to be here, and we are excited that it is Think Orange Month in Winston-Salem. We did get a grant from the National League of Cities back in August, and we were one of 6 cities nationwide to be able to spread the importance of how to combat hunger in Winston-Salem. We have been able to do that with a number of partners, and we're really excited about that. One of the things that we have been able to do is incorporate an after-school meal program in our various recreation centers. We also had a digital Blitz campaign, and several of you all assisted us with that, and we appreciate that, and that was another way for us to spread awareness of the campaign. We also had an unselfie contest, and Mayor Pro Tem Burke, you were one of the first people that came up to take a selfie. And we appreciate that, and we had some other folks in the city, the employees, to get engaged, so we were really excited about that. We have been able to work with partners such as the Winston-Salem Urban League and being able to spread our SNAP outreach throughout the city. We've been able to work with the Fairgrounds Farmers Market, the Cobblestone Farmers Market. We've also been able to partner with Hope of Winston-Salem, and we've also been able to partner with Ezekiel AME Zion Church to provide summer meals at our recreation centers as well. I'm pretty sure I'm leaving out a ton of stuff that we've done, but we have a website, so there's good news. For anything that I missed out, we have a website, which is thinkorangews.org. So folks who are at home and watching this live, please go to the website and learn more about what we're doing. But more importantly, take a trip to Lowe's Foods and buy a pair of orange socks. We partnered with Hanes Brands and with Lowe's Foods, and we can help to combat hunger by putting a sock in hunger. So do that. They're $5 plus tax, and every cent will go towards the Think Orange Corporate Investment Fund so that we can give many grants to folks in the community who haven't otherwise been at the table to fund some of the innovative things that they're doing to try to help and combat hunger in Winston-Salem. So thank you so much for everything you've done. Anything you have to say? Okay. Well, thank you all so much.
Thank
you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams, for that initial grant that you were able to track down for us.
And Mayor, I don't know, they mentioned it sort of, and it's mentioned in the proclamation about the partnerships we've gotten the past couple of weeks with the credit union and Lowe's as to help build our foundation up.
Yeah, we've got a foundation that we're trying to raise money for in True Light Federal Credit Union, as well as Lowe's Foods, and of course Hanes Brands gave all the socks. So great corporate support. We need more.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. H2, please.
Item H2, resolution honoring the history and legacy of the Skyland senior citizens. Whereas the year 1950 marked the beginning of an organized recreation program in the Skyland community under the auspices of L.B. Hathaway, Recreation Director, Mrs. Minnie D. Harris was assigned to undertake the task of establishing the Skyland Senior Citizens Program. And whereas in 1951, at the home of the late Mrs. Nanny Weinkoff, with 8 members, the club, originally known as the Golden Girls Club, was formed. The club grew and progressed to become too large for home meetings, so they began meeting at Skyland Recreation Center, at which time it was renamed Skyland Senior Citizens, which has had over 150 members. Mrs. Harris retired in 1971, at which time Mr. Rupert W. Bell was transferred to the Skyland community. And whereas Mr. Bell, an employee of the Winston-Salem Recreation Department, retired in 1976, and as a tribute to his devoted service, the Skyland Senior Citizens formed the Rupert Bell Choir in 1978 under the leadership of President Janie A. Wilson, assisted by Mrs. Mamie White and Mr. Charles Crosby. In 1979, the Winston-Salem Recreation Department renamed East Winston Park Rupert Bell Park in honor of Mr. Bell. The Skyland senior citizens have been actively involved in the community, visiting nursing homes, organizing blood pressure programs, and participating in classes such as crocheting, ceramics, and sitter-size. Additionally, there were trips to Atlantic City, New Jersey, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and the American Theater. And whereas in 1983, the doors opened on the new Rupert Bell Neighbor Recreation Center, which stands as a living monument to the predecessors who, with great courage, wisdom, patience, thoroughness, and conscientiousness, and faith in God, recognized the need for a recreation center in the Skyland and East Winston community. And whereas Miss Beverly Legans, supervisor of the Rupert Bell Recreation Center, became the advisor in October 2015. Mrs. Legans has been a blessing to the club and will retire September 2019. Currently, there are 23 active members who continue to serve the East Winston community. The Skyland Senior Citizens will host the 2020 NCASCCS State Conference in Winston-Salem. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and the city council of the city of Winston-Salem hereby celebrate and honor the history and legacy of Skyland Senior Citizens Club and thank them for enhancing the lives of East Winston and service to the community.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. That's unanimous. I'm going to recognize Councilmember Scipio, who's going to present the resolution.
Ladies, would you stand, please? Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and fellow council members, and to our residents in Winston-Salem, the best assets of the East Ward are its residents. And this club, 68 years old, was established a couple years after I was born. And it has been going strong. The beauty of this club is that it was established by some of the earlier African Americans who came to Winston to work at RJR. Some of them came as early as 1920s. And this club was formed by many of their retirees. This club has been a testament. These ladies, their predecessors, you've heard the resolution, they are dynamic. They have been active. And oftentimes you have to make an appointment to get on their calendars because they're just that active and so engaged. So at this time, I'd like to present this to Beverly, who's their supervisor. Miss Beverly will be retiring very soon from our Parks and Recreation Department.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to all of you and for the great work that's been going on there for a number of years. Councilmember
Yes,
Burke.
and I was going to say, when they have their conferences, it's overflowing with people from around North Carolina. They are well known throughout the state.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Scipio. Excuse me. Tonight's agenda of the City Council is comprised of two parts, the general agenda and the consent agenda. It's always the practice of our council to take the consent agenda as the first order of business. Items on the consent agenda have been unanimously recommended by a committee of the City Council or are being submitted in accordance with established procedure. There will be no discussion of the items on this agenda unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered individually. Items not removed from the consent agenda will be enacted with one motion. We are televising this meeting live tonight on TV 13, and it will be replayed on Tuesday at 9 a.m. and again Wednesday at 9 p.m. Of course, copies of our agenda as well as videos of previous meetings are always available online at the city's website, www.cityofws.org, and just click on the Watch Meetings Online option. Council members, are there any items you wish to pull from the consent agenda?
Move for approval of this consent agenda.
Motion and second of the motion to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much, council members. Council will now go to the general agenda, which is comprised of the following. There's an item related to a voluntary annexation, an item related to the acquisition of 226 South Liberty Street, an item related to a master encroachment agreement with AT&T, one item related to an appointment for boards and commissions, as well as the public comment period. The voluntary annexation is listed for a public hearing, and when this public hearing is called, persons in the council chamber will be given an opportunity to speak. If there does want to speak, we'd ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. The public comment is a time set aside for citizens to voice their opinions about matters that are germane to city government. And when this comment period is called, each speaker will be given 3 minutes for comment, and the comment period is limited to a total of 30 minutes. Ms. Keeney, may we have the first item, please?
Item G1, public hearing on consideration of items relating to petition for the voluntary annexation of approximately 30.613 acres located off of Fisher Road, being part of the Grove at Fisher Road, located in the Southeast Ward.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the council chamber who wishes to be heard on this proposed voluntary annexation? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed, and I'll recognize Councilmember Taylor. This would be coming into your ward, I believe, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As you can see, there was no one who spoke negatively in the public comment period. This particular item, what it essentially does, it annexes voluntarily 30 acres into the city for 116 lots for homes for people in our community who want to live in the southeastern portion of the community. This item has been properly vetted by our sanitation departments, our police, and our fire departments, and it has been properly vetted by the Public Works Committee. So at this particular time, hearing no opposition from anyone from the community, I move for approval of this item.
Second. Thank you. Motion second. Is there any discussion of this item? Seeing none, please vote yes if you're in favor of this motion and no if you're opposed to it. That is unanimous.
Thank you.
Councilmember Taylor. Item G2.
Item G2, resolution approving acquisition of 226 South Liberty Street, assumption of current lease with the state of North Carolina, and new lease with the New Winston Museum, located in the South Ward. Finance Committee forwarded this item with 2 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 absent.
Motion did come from the Finance Committee with a recommendation for approval. However, the chairman was not there and the vice chairman was not in favor of it. So I'd recognize either Councilmember McIntosh or Councilmember Burke if they'd like to make a motion to get this on the floor.
Motion to approve.
I second.
Motion second. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Those opposed, vote no. Motion passes 7 in favor, 1 opposed. Councilmember Adams voting no. Item G3.
Item G3, resolution approving a master encroachment agreement with AT&T for small cell wireless facility, various locations in the city of Winston-Salem. Public Works Committee forwarded this item with 3 in favor and 1 abstaining.
Recognize the chairman of the Public Works Committee, Councilmember Bessie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On behalf of the committee, I will move approval, but I would like to have a staff summary of what this consists of.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. So, Mr. Duquesne.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council.
Good evening.
The item before you tonight is a master encroachment agreement with AT&T for the installation of small cell infrastructure. The reason staff brought this item as a master encroachment agreement is there could be approximately 150 of these devices being placed throughout the city. And without a master encroachment agreement, we have to do individual encroachment agreements for each one, which is it's rather time consuming and a heavy process for staff. It also requires the applicant to provide a certificate of insurance and some other documentation with each one of those submittals or applications. That's one reason. The second reason was we wanted to make sure that the mayor and council understood the number of these devices that were going to be coming and from what vendor. There will be other companies submitting for similar agreements with the city. What staff is committed to do is instead of bringing each individual device in front of the council for consideration, as the applications come in, we'll come and see the council member of the ward and be able to show them where these devices are proposed and get your input on a regular basis. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Mr. Kane, for clarity, could you describe what we're talking about here? These are not freestanding towers. These are relatively small devices that would be placed as part of the infrastructure on existing utility poles.
Yes, sir. That's correct. There may be some that could be installed on. They're relatively small devices, and their intent is to concentrate, say, 4G services in a more localized area. So if you're downtown, Wake Forest Innovation Quarter, other areas throughout the city, and as it grows, it allows for faster connection speeds. They're relatively small devices. They can be installed on light poles, of course, with permission from the light pole owner, other sorts of infrastructure, and in some situations they are put on freestanding poles. However, they are designed to sort of blend in with the existing environment.
And as we understand it, the city is, you might say, severely restricted by the North Carolina State Legislature in what we can insist upon in terms of placement of these, and we are not permitted to simply say, no, you can't put one up. Is that correct?
That is correct.
We do have the authority to require and negotiate them being shifted around so that, for example, they're not directly outside an apartment window or something like that. Is that correct? Or is that subject to debate?
It's subject to debate. We're looking mainly at public safety concerns as addressed in the statute, but I think the companies have been willing to work with the city in that regard.
I know in a couple of cases when these were coming individually that in my ward I asked for that and we got it. So the other thing, as I understand it, these are intended to provide better service quality without the large visible poles that are so controversial.
That's correct.
Okay. That's all I've got.
Councilmember Taylor?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. DeCain, in a sense, this is a situation where the General Assembly seemed to have usurped local control, and whether we vote on this or not tonight, they still can come in and put the items on polls. Is that correct? I think there's like a 45-day period, and if there isn't a response, then they can just do what they want to do anyway.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So in theory, we're voting, but whether we vote or not, the General Assembly has once again overstepped their boundaries, and they're telling local governments what to do.
Yes, sir.
Well, I was the vote who actually abstained from voting in committee because I have no problems with AT&T. I think if you're going to be a city that takes 4 or 5G and to invite millennials to continue to move the city forward, you're going to have adequate cell service. But I just have a problem whether it's guns in parks or no matter what it is with the General Assembly usurping local control. So my message to them is if you want to be on the city council, then run. But if you're going to be on the General Assembly, then do that. I mean, we have a responsibility. I represent the Southeast Ward, and everybody simultaneously represents their areas. How can we speak up for the people who we represent if we have no control? So it seems like we're voting on something today that we have no authority over, and that gives me great cause for concern.
Thank you. Councilor McIntosh?
Yeah, I'm going to beat the same horse. I mean, we are not approving the installation of 150 towers. We are acknowledging that we have some wiggle room to advise on location, and that's about all we have. There'll be more than 150 towers that go up in Winston-Salem. This is for AT&T. This is a master agreement with a known partner who we've had a couple of run-ins with as far as their contractors, but generally I think are good actors. What we aren't going to have the ability to do is some of these, I'm going to call them wildcatters, who come in and just act without asking our permission, and there'll be some skirmishes there, I think. But at the end of the day, 5G is a technology that people are going to want. It really doesn't exist right now. From a public safety standpoint, we'll be using it. The public will want it. And so working as best we can to locate these in the best locations, I believe, and I think most members of council believe, is better than having a lot of big cell towers around the city, which people really, really don't want. So it's kind of a devil's bargain, but I appreciate staff, and I think I think the approach is warranted, going to the council member of the ward and trying to work out location wherever we can. So thank you.
I was going to say, when they started this with utilities, they have strong lobbyists. These businesses have big money, so they hire people to make things happen for them. So I think what you would look at would be these companies we have in our city, to talk with them, Mr. Till and others, about how you're letting your lobbyists just show disrespect to our citizens. They started with the underground wire. Yep. They can come up to your door to where you step up on your porch. So when we look at this, it's happening in Washington, and it's happening here right in the state of North Carolina.
All right, Councilmember Bessing, one more.
Yeah, just one note in terms of the terminology, Councilmember McIntosh, you didn't mean to say towers. We're not really talking about 150 towers here. We're talking about
correct
150, up to 150 occasions that AT&T might
locations,
mostly hang these on existing poles.
Right.
They're like rooftop level.
All right, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. That motion passes 7-1. Councilmember Taylor voting negative. All right, item G4.
Item G4, Mayor joins recommendation for reappointment to the Triad Municipal ABC Board. Damon Lindell, term expiring June 2022.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Thank you. Motion second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Item G5.
Item G5, public comment period.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, just before we start the public
Yes,
comment
sure.
period, I know that a lot of folks are aware of this, and our colleagues have probably heard, but just for folks who haven't, we did lose a community leader today, Reverend Carlton Eversley, the longtime pastor at Delbrook Presbyterian Church, passed away, and I know he will be missed. He was a tireless worker and champion for social justice in our community.
Here, here.
Thank you, Councilmember Bessie. Councilmember Burke.
Since he lives in the northeast ward, the northern part, I was going to mention that. Thank
Oh,
you.
my apologies.
That's fine. The press did call, but I was not able to respond to them today. I can recall when Mr. Everett first came to Winston-Salem. I saw him at First Baptist Church. He had on a short plaid jacket. It was during the winter, and a beanie on his head. He became an assistant pastor at First Baptist, and then he went on to become the pastor at Delbrook Presbyterian Church. He was also very active with the men's group up at Countryside off of Oak Summit. They worked very hard, they participated, and you could see him often when they were having activities at the Oak Summit Park over there with the other residents. So as Mr. Bessie said, he will be missed, but he was a full engaged, and to be fully engaged before you pass and still moving around is also a blessing. So we do send our prayers to his family, and may God be with them.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Bessie. Now go to public comment period. Again, this is 30-minute time that we invite citizens to address the city council on matters that are germane to city government. Again, limit your remarks to 3 minutes. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. And give your name and address for the record, please. First person signed up is Caroline Warren.
Caroline Warren, 823 West 7th Street, Winston-Salem, 27101.
Thank you.
Climate change is a broad topic. I won't belabor it tonight, but I have been thinking a lot on what the city's role in it is. I've looked at the city's strategic plan, and 2 things that really stand out to me are the fact that we run a public transportation system and we manage trash. I think we're doing a lot of things right. The improvements to the public transportation system a couple years ago, where we got the hybrid electric buses, great. Better stops, great. A lot of those buses still run once an hour. So most of the people who ride them, at least from my conversations, don't have another choice. I ride it by choice because my little girl loves it and I like to save my gas. But we have to plan for those buses to run more than once an hour. I'm nervous. I don't know what that will require monetarily, but I strongly suggest we start budgeting for it, or we plan for it in the budget next year. We certainly budget for other things that we consider essential, like the police. With regards to the trash, we've done a great job with encouraging people to recycle and talking about what doesn't go in the recycling bin. What I haven't heard us talk about is our plan for food waste. Food waste is an enormous component of the trash. And unlike what a lot of people think, including myself, food waste does not naturally decompose in a landfill. It composes anaerobically because it's in a bag, and it creates methane, which is 20 times more powerful than CO2. It disseminates, I can't say the word. It goes away faster, but it's still a huge problem. Many cities are picking up compost commercially in addition to recycling. I know Gallon's Food does commercial composting. I haven't spoken to them yet, but for everyone who's composting in their backyard, think about all the restaurant waste. If you go downtown, think about all the food waste from all the restaurants. Most restaurants aren't going to compost that on site. We don't have the capacity for it. So I encourage us to think about that as we move forward. Let me check my notes real quick. I totally went off script. I think it's great we have a sustainability coordinator and we have reformed the Citizen Sustainability Committee, but I want to say that the word sustainability is a little bit nebulous, kind of like the word study or the expression thoughts and prayers. So I encourage us to think about working to get to net zero emissions. Yes, there's China and India, but they're working on it and on a very local level as well. And maybe if we work hard, we can be one of those viral videos that we see on Facebook.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morticia Parman.
Good evening, Mayor Jones and council members.
Good evening.
Political promises are much like marriage vows. They are made at the beginning of a relationship between the candidate and the voters, but are quickly forgotten after elected. Over the past month, myself and others are aware that the land that was proposed by the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School Board to be purchased for the future home of Ashley Elementary School was taken off the agenda. Without any explanation, myself and others would like to know why this happened. While campaigning in some form or another, each of you said that you were here to fight for us and to help provide a better way of life for our children. I'm standing before you today, asking, pleading, and even begging, if you would please, if you would please put the sale of the land for Ashley Elementary School back on the agenda. In good conscience, I would hope that you as a board would see that by not doing so, this continues to put our children health at risk, and it also stops economic development in the Northeast Ward. Thank you.
Mayor, may we just
Thank you.
have a comment, please?
Councilman Burke.
Ms. Palmer, just stand for a minute, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Our Community Development Department head, a city assistant manager, would you please tell us a little bit about what we are going to be doing? And not only will Ms. Palmer hear this, but the other people in the area. This is our way of marketing stuff. It's very good you're down here this evening because we are going to start, and no one has taken actually that off of it.
Okay.
We're not taking that piece of property. We're looking at some things.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
May she just go?
Ms. Ford, would you make just a brief comment?
Good evening, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem, Burke, members of the council.
Good evening.
We are starting our community engagement process as part of the Choice Neighborhood application. Our application is due November 4th, and beginning the week of the 23rd, 24th, and 26th, we'll be meeting with neighborhood residents and also stakeholders that are concerned or have interest that they'd like to share with us about this process. The consultants that will be facilitating this process are Urban Strategies Design, part of the McCormick Baron Group. Council approved that action a few months ago. As part of the community engagement, we'll work very closely with residents. Some of the meetings have to be resident-owned to ensure that the voice of the residents that reside in Cleveland Avenue homes are heard as part of this process. And then we will have a part of community engagement process the evening of those dates that I just mentioned. So later this week, we will start with publicizing those meetings. We will put out where those meetings will be held, and it's open to the public to share their feedback, thoughts around the school, thoughts about what housing should look like, thoughts around commercial economic development in that area for us to all include, and the grant application will be submitted later in November.
And Mayor, and what I want you to know, Ms. Palmer, we were in Charlotte looking at a situation that had been similar to Cleveland Public Housing. Cleveland has been forsaken. For this choice neighborhood, this will be the third time we sent it. I pray and hope that it will not be rejected. But if it is rejected, then we're going to have to be ready as a city to go in there and do something with it. And we'll also be giving that report with the housing up there, the home ownership, with the crime up there. So tell all of your friends to please try to get to these meetings. Now, tomorrow I'll be meeting with someone. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Tomorrow we are having input sessions, and this is for us to make sure that we are designing these meetings in a way that residents can participate and also that the community can participate. So we want to get our feedback from the residents that live in the area before we market it widely. So if there are any last-minute adjustments that we need to make, we'll do that in partnership with the residents that are there.
Also, and give Ms. Palmer today, sometimes, the place in Raleigh that we're also going to look at that was just similar to Cleveland Public Housing, and we'll be looking at that area where they started the school. And we're going to have some strong stakeholders. We're going to have people in Winston-Salem with some money that's willing to put some money east of 52.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Joanne Allen?
Good evening, Joanne Allen, P.O. Box 284, Winston-Salem 27102. First of all, good evening. The city of Winston-Salem has a population of over 245,000 people. It is a cowardice act to limit the public comment period to 30 minutes because you all haven't done your job of representing the people's interest here in Winston-Salem. And what I mean by that is that you all haven't done enough. The city council can't even follow its own set of amended rules when it comes to doing things correctly. Even with the public comment period, you all did not do that correctly last month. Winston-Salem was one of the first cities in the country to lose its public cable access television because Mayor Pro Tem Burke and others did not like some of the show's producers making comments about them on the air. It is kind of hard now trying to jump through hoops to make Winston-Salem an all-American city and show that you all represent the people's interests. You may be able to fool some of the new outsiders as well as some of the status quo, but most of them do see what is going on in our city. Some of you have made millions off of your titles and positions while in office. All of this while people are being removed from their neighborhoods, their property devalued, and historical black communities being eliminated under gentrification. But yet and still you want the public to be silent. It's not going to happen. I am here to tell you tonight the people have had enough of this. You scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. Maybe some of you all don't understand it's not your role to just represent the people in your ward, as several council members have stated quite often. It is your duty under oath to be a representative to all the people in this city. My last comment is this. I've been coming before the city council for quite some years, and I'm here to tell you is that once again, this is Winston-Salem, the city of Winston-Salem. And if you all can't do your job and represent the people the way that you're supposed to, then no one need to be up here sitting before the people saying that you represent them correctly. Thank you.
Al Jabbar? Mr. Al Jabbar?
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Burke. Good evening, the remainder of the City Council.
Good evening.
I live at 617 Daffodil Drive, and I live in Kernersville, North Carolina. When I came in to sign in, I gave the young lady my address, and she said, "You live in the city?" Well, no, I don't live in the city. And sometimes people will say, well, you know, you don't have a dog in the fight. But I have children that I've been working with for 60-some years in our community. Ashley School has been a drive that coalitions in our community have pushed for. Now I hear that there are some things that's ongoing, and it's ironic that on last Tuesday, I was speaking with Dr. Carlton Eversley, and he asked me, he says, "Jabbar," he says, "what's going on with Ashley?" And I said, well, I'll see if I can find out. Unfortunately, I won't be able to tell him. But fortunately, he left soldiers behind who are willing to fight for our children. So I came today to say that it's been over 50 years since we had a black elementary school in the black community. We have had grants before and they didn't get in on time or whatever, for whatever reason, they didn't get satisfied. So, you know, I'd like to know if we can do this in a situation where we can get this done. I understand the city has some land. I understand Winston-Salem Forsyth County has some land where there could possibly be a land swap. So I just ask that if we can get about the business of providing for children that look like me an opportunity where they can go into a school that they can be excited about. I was walking in with the kids at Cook last year when they had opening house. And it was amazing. I was walking behind kids and they came in and they looked around and said, "Oh, I can see in here now." We want these opportunities for our children. So I come before you today and ask that we don't hold this stuff and we kind of spin it around and keep spinning around. Let's see if we can get some things moving so that we can take back to the community some things that are actively happening here on the city council. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Jabbar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to be heard during the public comment period? Yes.
Hello, Mackenzie Cates Allen, 3490 Prison Ridge Drive, Winston-Salem. Mayor Pro Tem Burke, esteemed council members. Since this is the fastest 3 minutes ever, I'd like to go ahead and state for the record that the names that I like for the fair are the Cardinal Classic Fair, or my favorite, the Carolina Classic Fair. I also wish, as always, to thank all of you for your service to our community and remind my fellow citizens that as the consent agenda is evidence, there is many, many items and issues that you guys work on at all given times. This is random, but I promise it's relevant. Recently, I watched one of my favorite movies of all time, V for Vendetta, which never fails to be relevant. And my favorite quote from that movie is, "People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people." Now, I do not subscribe to fear tactics, so I'm not advocating vengeance or anything. But in fact, I believe the opposite of everything of that. But it does serve to remind us that government and those seats belong to the people. And I believe that as local government is closest to the people, we should seek to inspire and empower our people. And there are a lot of things that we can improve on. We can always do better, right? And I do want to say that I am so happy that all of the council and many of the committee meetings are taped and available later to watch. And I'm also grateful that public comments are possible and broadcasted for people to watch later as well. And I also wish to commend Councilmember Taylor. Thank you for your frequent, calm, rational, and succinct overview of things. It's really nice to have an overhead glimpse of things as they come up. And I also wish to thank the Winston-Salem Police Department. On Saturday, I witnessed an accident at Marshall and 2nd, and they were amazing. They were fast, efficient, and professional, and just wonderful. And I can't wait to use that commendation system once that is available. I look forward to continuing to work with you and your awesome city staff, and thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to be heard? Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
City Council, Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor. My name is Eunice Campbell, 5743 Antietam Drive, Winston-Salem 27106. I come to you today as the committee chair for education for the NAACP and also a member of the Board of Directors for Action for Equity. Not another brick, not another bond. When we started our quest to have the Ashley School replaced, that was our mantra. Not another brick, not another bond. That's what we told the school board. And then I thought, that could also apply to city bonds. We need land for Ashley School, land that you influence. Now, I know we're waiting for the grant for through the Housing Authority, I believe it's filtered through, but that would be the third time. This is the same promise that was given to us in April. That's not a given. So we can't put all of our eggs in the same basket for that particular grant. We need the city to tell us, what is your contingency? Why are we waiting? We have to wait till November for that to even be turned in, and then wait for a decision. Every year we wait, we lose students. Proficiency, student graduation rates. We're talking about some real issues, an impact that the city council can actually make on our school district. And I'm asking you to think about what you're really asking parents to do when it comes to waiting. Because for a lot of parents, that's not an option. We have to move quicker when it comes to the education. Because no matter what we're doing here in the city, because you all are doing some things that are on point, working, but it's not going to be sustainable if you don't start taking care somehow of the children and the adults here as far as education and workforce. It's all going to be for naught. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Anyone else?
Alan.
Seeing no one, I'll declare the public comment period closed and recognize Councilmember Clark.
Thank you. I just didn't want you to hit the gavel before I
I'm
had
not-
two quick items. First off, I have been gone quite a bit lately. I just want to let everybody know in the last 30 days I have spent 15 of them out of the country, 7 in India and 8 in China. But I am back for a while. Those trips had been planned some time ago. Secondly, this is the first time I have ever heard this issue with Ashley School brought up. I would appreciate if the staff could just get, maybe I'm the only one up here that doesn't know anything about it, but some information how this relates to the community grant that I do know we're working on for a third time. So just some information so I'll know what's going on there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion second to adjourn. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.